Trent is the president and executive director of California Clean Money Campaign, and he is going to elaborate on this very strange and wonderful idea of public finance for campaigns, as well as for the Disclose Act. So, Trent Lange.
Thank you. I'm glad to see you all here for this extremely important topic. As we've seen from what John was saying, we have a very perilous situation in our country with the unlimited spending that is now allowed in political campaigns, thanks to Citizens United. And it's a problem that's really drowning out the voices of regular voters, both in California, in the country, and even in local city governments. Just as an example, over $1 billion is been pledged to be spent by super PACs nationally, attacking the presidential candidates, attacking congressional candidates, attacking Senate candidates. And in California, over $150 million has already been spent on the ballot measures here in California alone. So it's a situation where we have to make changes. And as John talks about, Common Cause and lots of other good groups like Move to Amend a United Republic are working on what will be the best long-term solution, and that will be a constitutional amendment to say that corporations are not persons. But there are other very, very important steps that we can take even before that we can take under current law. And actually these are steps that we're going to want to have in place whether or not, even with a constitutional amendment. And that is two things. Nobody's ever going to stop spending on political campaigns. None of the constitutional amendments would do that. But we need to know, no matter what, who is behind the campaigns, who is behind the candidates, who is behind all those ads. And so we absolutely need to have real, full disclosure. California actually has pretty decent disclosure as it is. Anybody can go onto the Secretary of State's website and find out who is, dig deeply and find out who is giving directly to candidates and ballot measures, but 99% of people aren't going to spend the time going to the Secretary of State website to find out where it is. We need to make sure that people can see that on the ads themselves. So that's one thing. One thing is real disclosure, and I'll talk a little bit about a bill that we're working on and a lot of coalition partners are working on called the California Disclose Act that would do that by making political ads actually have to show on the ads themselves who pays for them. A second thing that we need for certain is to have public financing of campaigns, because right now the only people that give that really can afford to give to candidates in large extent are the wealthy, and currently also corporations and unions and other special interests. Those super PACs that are being spent $1 billion, those are mostly being spent. Most of that money is raised by billionaires. You may have heard of Sheldon Abelson, who is already given on the order of $30 million to Republican candidates, and it's billionaires that are really playing in those games. So another option is that we need to have in place is public financing of campaigns to make sure that qualified candidates have the opportunity to not have to raise all their money from big special interests. And there are different ways of doing that. There's a bill in Congress right now called the Fair Elections Now Act that would, if it were to pass, would be a dramatic change in the way we finance election campaigns. Basically, the way it works is you have to go and raise a lot of small contributions. I believe in that bill, a lot of small $5 contributions to prove, hundreds of them, to prove that you have broad-based support in your area. And then once you do that, you get a big chunk of money, public funds, to run your campaign so that you have enough to really get the word out. And also then you get matching funds. You can raise funds up to, I I'm not sure if the Fair Elections Now Act, I think it's either $100 or $200 as a maximum, and then you get matching funds on a 4 or 5 to 1 basis to be able to match those small donors. And in exchange, the candidates have to accept limits. They can't accept any larger contributions than that under the Fair Elections Now Act, under good, strong public financing proposals. So that in exchange for getting money from the public so that they're accountable to the public, they are not allowed to raise money from special interests, in amounts over like $100 from regular people. So that's a huge sort of change that we need to build up. That would make an entire change. There was an article in Salon magazine yesterday that people don't notice it very much, but Congress is back in session now for a couple of weeks. Right? Are they really doing anything? No. But they're doing something very, very important to them in their careers, and that they are going to fundraisers hosted by lobbyists. The Salon article pointed out that there were over 300 fundraisers in Washington, D.C. in this 2 or 3 week period that they're back in session. They're probably not going to do a darn thing in terms of passing laws, but they're out there raising huge checks from all those special interests. So when you have public financing of campaigns, that changes. And it's very possible to get it. The states of Arizona and Maine and Connecticut have full public financing systems that have made a huge difference in their political system. In Maine and Connecticut, their systems of public financing are so strong, so desirable, that over 80% of their legislatures use the public funds instead of private funds. So they're only accountable to those people that help them get all those $5 contributions and the voters, and not the special interests. So how do you get there? It's a long process because there are big special interests that are fighting against it. And one of the lessons that we've learned is that you have to really build a movement and expect that it's going to take a while to go. John mentioned the city of Los Angeles just last week passed a law to strengthen its public financing system. The city of Los Angeles actually had a public financing system that started in 1990. There was a partial matching fund system that would give one for people who raise money from private from individuals. It would give a 1-to-1 match if you get raised up to $250 from individuals. And that actually helped in exchange for accepting limits on what you would spend, so there would be no arms race. So it's helpful in many ways, but it's an old system and it needed updated. Back in 2006, California Clean Money Campaign, along with groups like Common Cause, started to work on City Council we need to strengthen this system. We need to try to eventually move to full public funding of campaigns. And it's a long, long process. 2 years ago, City Council, at the behest of our organizations, put a measure on the ballot called Measure H that made it so that it's possible to increase the amount that the city could have for its public financing system. We ran a campaign with the voters. Over 75% of the voters said, yes, we need to strengthen public financing in the city of Los Angeles. It's a sign that voters are really starting to get fed up with the current broken campaign finance system, and they demand a change. Then over the last months, we worked with the Ethics Commission, so this is working with the local officials, working with local city council members, working with local coalition members to put pressure on city council and make phone calls and write. They tend to listen to people when they get enough phone calls and enough letters from their constituents. Politicians, especially at the local and state level, do have to listen a little bit. And after all that process, the city of Los Angeles just on Wednesday passed a measure to increase the matching funds rate from 1-to-1 to a 2-to-1 in primaries and a 4-to-1 rate in general elections. So those small donations, now a $140 donation is worth as much as a maximum donation, a much bigger donation from a special interest. So it's only partly there. We're going to have to keep on fighting for Los Angeles to make it even stronger and to make it eventually be full public funding. But through a process of interacting, getting involved, signing petitions, making phone calls, we're able to strengthen that and then use that as an example. The bigger thing that we're working on right now is, and I mentioned this, the California Disclose Act. And I have flyers up here that I'll be able to hand out to those of you who want them. That is the problem of making sure that people, when they see political ads, know who's paying for them. And that is absolutely critical. You look at the sorts of things that have been killed in California. Thank you. Just an example, in 2005, there was a proposition on the ballot, Prop 79, that would have provided prescription drug discounts in California. It was supported by, there was a dramatic, the polls showed people really wanted to pass that when it started. Unfortunately, there was $123 million in anonymous attack ads. And what people saw was the group that was against it was Californians against the wrong prescription. That's what people saw, the disclosure they saw in the ads. Guess who it was? Drug companies. GlaxoSmithKline #1, Merck #2, Pfizer #3. Okay? And it just barely lost. If we'd had disclosure on those ads themselves, it probably would have passed. So that's what the California Disclose Act would do. The California Disclose Act would require all ads to very clearly, for 3 seconds at the end of their screen, show the top 3 funders and their logos. So you can instantly recognize when drug companies are against it, and when oil companies are against clean energy propositions, and when insurance companies are against healthcare reform, and when billionaires, no matter who they are, whether they be George Soros or the Koch brothers, are trying to buy politicians. There is a bill in the legislature this year called AB 1648 that was authored by Assemblywoman Julia Brownley. This was the second year that it was going through. It faced a lot of opposition. The California Chamber of Commerce and its allies, not surprisingly, the drug alliances and the insurance alliances, they were very strongly lobbying against it. So nobody thought we'd be able to get that bill anywhere at all. But fortunately, there is also just an equally strong coalition of groups in favor of it. And it ended up over 100,000 people signed petitions in favor of the California Disclose Act over the 2-year period. And when I'm done with it, I'll pass petitions around for you to sign. So it actually got all the way through the California Assembly at the end of the year. So for the first time, we have the largest state in the country, one house of the legislature, has gone on record as saying political ads need to show dramatically who has paid for them, so people know when they see those ads and they can make that decision when they try to vote. Now, it ran out of time because of all that opposition, but we're going to go back and we're going to introduce a new version of the California Disclose Act starting in January. We've already got the Assembly on record as saying that the California Disclose Act should be passed. It would probably have to go on the ballot, but 84% of the voters, polls show, like this kind of disclosure. So we're going to have to work really hard to make sure that the Senate passes this version of the bill, and then that we hold the Assembly to the line, since the Assembly said they were on for it, and that goes to the Assembly again and get the governor to sign it. If we can get that passed, and that's going to take a lot of work, and like I said, we'll sign those petitions, and that's going to take phone calls and messages, phone calls and letters and trips to Sacramento and all those things. If we can get that passed, then that will help us with the next version, which is public financing of campaigns, so the candidates themselves don't have to spend all the time fundraising, and then a constitutional amendment. That's our path. It's a long, hard path. The special interests, they're fighting all the time. All the time. They never give up. They're always there. They have jobs. So we have to do the same thing. It's a long process, but if we keep fighting, we can get there and take back control for the people. Thank you.